Competitive debate is an activity that has engaged and inspired tens of thousands of students across the country. Countless hours, dozens of websites, and thousands of pages have been devoted to teaching students how to be better debaters. On any debate team, however, there is one person who often gets very little attention or education: the coach. What does a coach do? Which coaching strategies work best for new debaters? What should a coach do during a debate tournament? How can you become a better coach? The purpose of this video is to begin to answer questions like these, to help provide new debate coaches the same kinds of advice and information we provide beginning debaters. The most basic question any new debate coach might have is simply, what does a debate coach do? We asked experienced coaches to help us write a job description for the position of debate coach.
Must love kids, must have patience, I think are the first kind of two things that I would throw out there. But travel agent, counselor, mother, father, teacher, and friend in the sense of, obviously keeping that teacher-student boundary together, but being a confidant for these students. That all comes before the argumentation and the strategy sessions and the research and all of that.
You're a mentor, you're a leader. The students look to you to give them guidance on something that will change their lives, like debate. More than any other activity that I've ever engaged in, kind of changed my way of thinking about the world. It changed the things I saw as interesting and changed the way that I thought about them. So you are their shepherd through that process, and so, even if you don't want to be, or even if you don't take any overt steps, like you're a role model and they will kind of look to you for guidance on a lot of different things. And so being a debate coach should be seen as more than just a custodian for an extracurricular activity, but like a way of shaping and molding students as they kind of go on a journey through life.
I certainly do, the sort of mundane tasks of filling out paperwork and getting approval for tournaments, and then organizing transportation and housing and food, and organizing communication with parents to make sure that they understand, what the expectations are and what they can expect from the team. And so I'm sort of a travel agent, and I'm sort of a psychic sometimes, and a counselor.
Really, one of their biggest jobs is to come up with the intellectual vision for their team. Now, what kind of team are we going to be? What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And that's the description. And they got to be willing to work to make that vision a reality. And so when you write that job description, is that if your idea is very small in scope, then the amount of time you have to work at it is smaller. If your philosophy is big in scope, that's going to define your time. And that's just like anything in education. If you just want your kids to pass the local test, then that's one thing. If you want your kids to be in the top 5% of the SAT in the country, that's a different vision. And that's what I tell coaches is that, it depends on how you define yourself. And that's so important to your job description. And you should define your job description by how you define yourself.
The excitement of the kids really gets you moving. When they come back, and whether they've won or lost, they come bubbling up, and it's like, well, we did this argument, Judge Beard, and we did this. And it's just, it's really rewarding to see that. It's a little scary at first because you don't know if what you're teaching the kids is correct. In my case, it was a little bit different. I didn't have anyone bringing me up to speed in the 25 years that I was out of the activity. So we were sort of doing some things that we did back in the old days. And but it really wasn't any impact on the kids. We were able to change around in the first couple of tournaments and learn. And the other coaches were really helpful. Some of the high school coaches and some of the college coaches just really bent over backwards to help me. So that wasn't a bad problem at all.
But at the end of the day, the fact that you are going to bringing kids to the tournaments, you're providing opportunities, like the rest of the stuff, the competitive success, it will come, right? You don't need to worry about that. But just kind of, if push comes to shove, if you're worried about whether or not debate is worth it, go in and watch a varsity debate and watch how poised these kids are, watch how smart they are, watch how good they are on their feet, and realize that yes, you are helping your kids do this. Like, this is possible. It might not happen right away, but you're working in a great direction.
Your first job is to recruit students. You know, it's great if you have a situation where a lot of students come to you and say they want to join the debate team, but in a lot of people's experience, that's not the case. So you have to find a way to kind of sell the idea of debate. I've had to work on that, you know, with a lot of our Urban Debate League programs. We have to essentially go into schools where kids, you know, couldn't care less about debating, or rather couldn't care less about standing face to face with another student and talking about, you know, the ills of the federal government or this or that policy. Kind of convince them the debate was something that they wanted to be interested in else because it had other advantages. So I'd say recruiting is kind of the #1 priority.